It's Monday, July 9th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goes, that's Gorgeous George, that's Dan Tom. The voice you hear is Danny Okers. Say something, Danny Okers.
That me.
I confirmed it. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Somebody sent that to me on Twitter.
What was it about? Someone lose or something?
I remember it was, yeah, it was like something that I would be happy about. And
oh, okay. That is that. I do associate that with you, so I
Did
okay.
you see the all-time worst tweet I've ever tweeted in my life?
No.
Right before Francis Ngannou and Derrick Lewis, I tweeted,
Oh, no.
"Oh my God, that's the craziest KO I've ever seen." And then like hashtag, I don't even have to watch it. I know what's gonna happen.
Oh,
I tweeted
man.
like right before the fight started, and I jinxed the whole thing.
Oh, man.
It was the worst jinx ever. One of the worst predictions you guys will ever see in your life.
Everybody, you're lucky though, because I think everybody had something, a version of that for that fight. You know, kind of heading into it.
It'd be like Ashley Simpson when she was on Saturday Night Live. If somebody would have tweeted, "You guys just wait. This is going to be one of the greatest performances you've ever seen."
Oh boy, Ashley Simpson, I can hardly.
Yeah.
That's perfect, Danny. Oh, boy.
I feel like we have so much to talk about.
It definitely.
So much. Dan, the high and low video, would it be easier to do that during the show or after the show? The way
we would have to be on point for that one, I think. But
if we did it on the show,
I'm down to do it either way. To try it either way.
What's easier for you though?
I'm just going to try to stay queued up. As long as you give me a heads up like the Daily Debate or something, give me some kind of wink or a nudge so I can hit the record, right? That's pretty much all I got to do.
Okay.
MMAjunkie.
Coming up in 1 minute.
George and Marcus from Atlanta are powwowing over there in the corner.
Yeah, they are.
What is this? Man, these Facebook memories are pretty cool. But every once in a while you get one that, like, this is my dog that passed away, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Huh. And then sure enough, right below it,
they're good
it's
about
a pop thing. Stupid Danny. God, I hate Danny, you guys. You have no idea how much I hate him now. Do you follow Danny on Facebook, Dan?
I don't follow Facebook, but yeah, I do follow Danny.
Man, he's the fucking worst, dude. The worst.
Hey guys, coming up. Stand by.
Pop dorks. Look, here's another one. Funko something.
Spunko.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'!
I like the guy.
Yes!
That's why I did that little guy.
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Daniel
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our East co-host. To my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom. back east, handling all the producing duties, Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
What's going
Good
on?
morning, everyone.
Man, you know what Marcus from Atlanta just showed me?
What?
Cha-ching!
Paper?
He-
I've
oh,
been
man.
seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. That dude's going to have to pay Southwest for excessive baggage because he's got 2 big balls to go on the plane along with his humanity. But, yeah, man, that dude banked
Did
4
he?
figures, yeah. Good for him. Good for Marcus from Atlanta to go up there and make his trip, man. Hopefully that's enough to bring him back for the Junkie Gathering.
Oh, he says yes.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, Marissa, SiriusXM, she made some money. I saw one of her parlays hit.
Cool.
If you're an underdog player, this was the week. All the underdogs on the main card hit. So that was massive, man. Daniel Cormier, of course. Let's talk about that. Let's start right at the top. Daniel Cormier became the 5th UFC fighter to win a second belt in a different weight class. He also became the 2nd fighter to win a second belt while holding an existing belt, following Conor McGregor. In that first category, he joins BJ Penn, Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, and Conor McGregor. So he's the 5th there to be a 2-time 2-division champ, and the 2nd to be a champ. You know, meaning he currently holds both belts. So congratulations, he took out arguably, but in my opinion, the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time, possibly the greatest heavyweight of all time, in Stipe Miocic, in a classic duel that was all settled in 1 round, but those guys went at it, man. UFC 226, solid card, man. Top to bottom, with one fight that I'm sure we'll touch on at some point. In fact, one of the participants in that fight, Ngannou and Lewis, Derrick Lewis, will be a guest of ours, as will DC. Goes and Dan, reaction to what Daniel Cormier accomplished that Saturday. On Saturday.
Amazing. The accomplishment itself is amazing. The way he did it was even crazier, because not very many people had him finishing the fight in that way. If you were just to show up to the press conference, you would have never imagined staring at Stipe Miocic and his face the way it looked. It was just battered and bruised. And a couple things that I saw in the fight that I didn't think could happen. I didn't think DC could take too many of Stipe's shots. And he took some pretty good ones.
Couple, yeah.
And he didn't really wobble or nothing. He took him right on the chin, kept marching forward. I thought if DC won, I didn't think he would knock him out. He did that.
Quickly, too.
I thought maybe he was a little too big. I thought he would be a little bit slower. Like, that weight would really hinder him a little bit. Didn't really seem like it at all. It was just a really strange fight, but the dude pulled it off. It's amazing.
He did. How about you, Dan, Tom? What'd you think?
Yeah, man, I'm not going to front, somebody who picked Cormier, but I didn't pick it by that way. I picked it by decision. Now, I will say I didn't say it couldn't be that way. In fact, I think I said on here, and I definitely put it in my breakdown, that people were forgetting about Cormier's power, that he actually has decent power. He stunned a lot of guys, both at light heavyweight and heavyweight, and to keep in mind that he wasn't diminishing himself. Stipe as well, with his style, as aggressive as it is, he's also hittable, kind of like Frankie Edgar. He's right. It's great footwork, good volume. You don't feel too worried about him with guys on the feet. He's been proven with some of the best, but just that style inherently, that pressure style, it allows for stuff to come back your way. And we saw Cormier was much more craftier in how to bring stuff back his way. In fact, he kind of alluded to that was a part of the game plan, kind of allowing Stipe to come to him, as opposed to the typical association we have with Cormier, where he's a pressure guy, right? A pressure guy.
Right. I'll tell you what, man. I thought Cormier probably by decision. I also thought Cormier by submission and Cormier by stoppage was another path to victory. But I kept saying later in the fight. He does hit hard, but I haven't seen it as much in the bigger fights. And he did it, man. He did it. Now, we only have an hour to cover everything that happened up until we get to the guests. And we're probably going to spend a lot of time with each guest. So I do want to move on from this topic in just a sec. But now that you've had 36 hours to let it marinate a little bit in your head, is he in the conversation for GOAT?
Hell yeah.
Is he the GOAT?
That is... I kind of have him as a tie right now with GSP.
Okay.
And I'd have to really, really break them down. I'll be honest, I thought with a win, they would be tied. But the way he won, is kind of making me sway a little bit more towards Cormier.
Mm-hmm.
But I like what a lot of people say, and that's like if he were to defend that belt one time, would be great. So I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on that one.
Okay. Is he the pound-for-pound #1 fighter currently?
Yes.
Dan Tom.
He's the definition
Is he
of it.
in the conversation for GOAT?
I believe he's in the conversation. I'll tell you what's going to secure it, but Goes brings up GSP. I think GSP is kind of that trump card, right? Because his resume, like I said, so impeccable. For someone like me who's going to be a contrarian, and I always tend to go with these pound-for-pound or all-time arguments in a different thing. We spend so much time looking for perfection and ways to mark guys off, where not only is life not perfect, MMA is far from perfect, guys. We see that you can put, well, I'm sure we'll get to the co-main event, but, things don't always add up the way they're supposed to. But the fact that Daniel Cormier always chased dangerous fights. I mean, you just think about going in there that grueling war with John Jones and wanting to do it again, and then getting ready for a camp and having all that drama, all the ridicule, all the drama that went along outside of the build-up, the failed fights, and he wanted to fight him again. Then he goes through it again, gets head kick KO'd, and he wants to fight him again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. Whereas I felt like with George, we were like begging, please fight this guy, please move up, please fight this guy, please when you're fighting this guy, try to finish him, please. And we've never had to say that with guys like Cormier, Dan Henderson, BJ Penn. So again, their records may not reflect it, but Cormier is not like a record like a Couture, a Henderson, a Penn. He's actually has an impeccable record. It's right up there with GSP. So I think he's in the conversation. But here's what secures it, guys. Here's what he secures: the pound for pound, the all-time, even over my favorites that everyone's probably tired of me harping on. All he has to do is defend one of these titles now, because who's done that? Conor didn't do it in Cage Warriors or the UFC. BJ did. BJ, he didn't do it simultaneously, but that was a knock for him as far as the defenses. George defended, but again, his critique was it was all defenses in one category. Dan Henderson, when he achieved it in Pride, granted Pride kind of dissolved and there was a weird trade going on, but he didn't really, and then he lost his fights if you're going lineal championships when he came over to the UFC. So you think about all these iterations, all these greats, all this timeline of a decade, no one's defended it. All DC has to do is defend any of those titles.
Randy
once.
defended, I think. Randy defeated Tim Sylvian, defended against Gonzaga.
Yeah, and that's why I put Randy
and
up.
As a light heavyweight, he defended.
And that's why I put Randy up there. But where Randy falls short, and it was the same even guys like BJ fall short, is they didn't do it simultaneously. That's where obviously everybody compares the Conor thing, but
I got you. Okay, so he's in your conversation.
Yeah,
but he's not the GOAT.
I wouldn't say so. No.
Okay,
no.
And is he pound for pound right now the #1 fighter?
I'd say he's pound for pound right now the #1 fighter. Yeah.
I think I'm right there with you
active
guys.
Fighters, yeah.
I'm with, I believe, I'm wearing a DC shirt too.
Yeah.
I feel like he's in the conversation, and I feel like right now he's currently the pound for pound #1. And as far as the GOAT, I'm with Goes. It's like there's a tie with GSP, but if you just put the records right next to each other, there's probably something in there that probably would have me, say Daniel is the GOAT. GSP was very dominant in one weight class. He won the other and left. Daniel was not, he was very good in his weight class, but he wasn't dominant in that his greatest foe vanquished him. But he did have title defenses, and he beat really, really good light heavyweights. But then he also moved up to beat the greatest heavyweight of all time, while GSP didn't move up to beat the greatest middleweight of all time. He just beat the incumbent champion at the time, Michael Bisping. So GSP lost twice. Daniel Cormier lost once on record. They both have had amazing win streaks. DC also had, while GSP only has the one fight as a middleweight, DC has this one fight, but he also had a 13-0 run against some really, really top-notch heavyweights while capturing a Grand Prix. So, you see what I'm saying? I feel like DC might be, I think he's the GOAT for me. Now, remember, guys, that doesn't mean GSP sucks, nor that Jones or Anderson Silva or BJ Penn or anyone else sucks. It's just, it's a 100-meter dash between all the guys who have held a record at one time. They just keep taking 1/100th of a second off the world record, and if they run next week, which by that I mean if GSP were to fight next week or Demetrius Johnson or someone, and they have an outstanding performance, then it could be that they pass up Cormier. It's literally that close for me. It runs like that for me because we're splitting hairs here,
Right.
over their achievements, But it's subjective, and it doesn't make me right. But I don't also believe it makes me wrong. It's fun to debate, though, man. I really love debating it, even if it leads to blocks and fuck yous and this and that and your mothers and whatever, because I forget about all that. So I can log on the next day and go, how you doing? But anyway, now we'll move on to the co-main event in just a sec, but I do want to get your reaction to Brock Lesnar, present at UFC 226. Daniel Cormier calls him out. He comes in. There's a shove. It's WWE-esque, and some are really, really pissed off about this. Some are pissed off just that it was WWE-esque, and others are pissed off that it was WWE-esque and Lesnar gets a shot. So some are even so much that they may be done with MMA because of what they saw. I've seen that many degrees of reaction.
Bye.
Yeah.
Go have fun doing whatever it is that you think is way cooler.
Right. So your thoughts on when you saw Lesnar and everything I just said?
Big surprise. I wasn't expecting him to see him there. I had thought about what DC's post-fight speech would be about. And let's be honest, I think we all thought at some point the name John Jones would be brought up. But because of the Lesnar thing, it wasn't brought up. And that was almost more of a gangster move. Because John was sitting there watching going, all right, here we go.
Right.
So not only a guy that he's been battling for so long for, this GOAT status, he kind of took him out of the equation a little bit and also took a fight that John had wanted, right? At one point. It was a very gangsterish move on his behalf to not say that. The fact that Brock came in, the whole shoving thing, I mean, I really don't care. It didn't look like they were going to get in a fight right then and there. It wasn't that type where once you get shoved, the other guy comes running back. Like, he kind of got shoved and even made like a funny face. Like, what was that all about?
Right.
So it didn't. I don't care if it's WWE or whatever. I'm sure it sells pay-per-views. If it does that, helps the company, I'm good. I'm fine. Whatever. I mean,
are you good with the title shot?
No, I think it's kind of silly, but I get why they're doing it. And I guess if you're gonna give someone a pass, it would probably be a guy like Daniel Cormier. So I get it.
Okay, Dan Tom.
Yeah, I'm with Goes. I think, first of all, I just think the pro wrestling thing, I think so much of it is people that just are reacting to it to react to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that they don't like it or that you have any reason to like it. Like, I haven't watched it in, I can't remember, probably since 1998 or 99, to be honest. That's why all my references are from there or beyond. So I'm not a big fan, but I don't get the hatred for it. I'm a fan of the pageantry and kind of Japanese style MMA, but also kind of what it brings. And you can't deny that it's doing really well right now, and that's not going to have an influence on the business. And kind of like what Go said, it's kind of the right time where not only do you want to give a pass to a guy like DC, which I agree he's one of the few guys who's earned it. And that's why I'm not getting upset about it. But also you got to think about it this way. There's a really lack of contenders, not just at heavyweight, but the other division he holds belt in, light heavyweight. It's probably at its lowest it's ever been, and right now is kind of the perfect time. Maybe not perfect time. Maybe they could have used a Brock Lesnar showing up before the ESPN deal, but they still seem to make out okay on that end, neither here nor there. But yeah, it seems like the perfect time for this kind of to happen. The UFC is going to facilitate it. I guess the bigger question is are we going to have a champion that's going to be, worthy enough? Because that's where you're going to see, or not a champion, a challenger in light heavyweight worthy enough to kind of test where is DC going to sit and wait for this Brock fight or what. But I have no issue with the Brock fight. I have no issue with what went down, the push or the shove. You could tell they were smiling and they knew what was going to go down, and they turned it on for the cameras. And you can get mad at that because it's like, hey, well, are they acting? You know what? I don't know about you guys, but I'm already seeing the kind of wavelengths behind the scene and people that can read between the lines as far as our sport goes, and this stuff injects fuel into it. And if it means a guy like Daniel Cormier gets to get paid at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with that.
Plus, he said it, right? I mean,
he came
out and he said it. I just want big money fights. This is a big payday.
Yep.
And I think what really helped guys was the co-main event.
Yep.
If somebody would have came out there shining, then I think you would have said, but wait a minute, there's more deserving guys. But like Dan said, right now it's just really not there.
I like that. You're right. He said it. He didn't hide behind some kind of, mixed message or political statement or this or that. And then he didn't go the other end of the spectrum and start throwing chairs at buses either. So, you might not like the pro wrestling, but would you rather have one end or the other in the spectrum? I'll take something in the middle, and I'll take a good guy like DC getting paid.
Yeah. Well, okay, the hardcores know, I didn't know he was going to be there, honestly. But when I got home and I saw the tape, you see DC walking around and he sees Lesnar, and it looks like he alerts him to the fact that something might go down. You know what I mean? We asked DC in the press conference. He said he didn't know he would be there till that day. Okay, I'm just going to believe him there. But when he saw him, I think he at least knew, hey, I may go down a certain path here, and those two guys have known each other since 1997 through wrestling. So DC was telling us that when DC goes to see pro wrestling with his family, Brock will come up and say hi to his family, and so they've communicated in some sense. I imagine at some point, hey man, let's make a lot of money one day. But at the time, he probably didn't even have the Miocic fight booked. At the time, maybe he thought Lesnar may not have even had his previous USADA problem in the Hunt fight. I don't know. This is since 1997, but regardless, he did take advantage of a situation. He was very business savvy at that point. He hurt John Jones in two ways. One, he didn't mention his name or even talking about that. And if you think about it, guys, John Jones, if he gets the 1 year, it's coming up. It's coming up in less than a month. So they could conceivably go, he's been cleared, time served, and guess what? UFC 226 in October, or 227 in November, or 228 in early December, or 229 at the end of the year. They could really, really just line this bad boy up. But I think the UFC still carries a little disdain, or maybe they have lack of belief that Jones will clear this. Maybe it'll be of the 2-year variety, so all this doesn't matter. But regardless, when Jones came back, I think a lot of people had been talking about Jones and Lesnar. Now, Jones and Lesnar doesn't get in the way of anything that's happening right now as far as the title picture. Although you could argue that Jones, at any moment when he's ready to go, he should be a title contender at light heavyweight for sure. And at heavyweight, he's had such a great career that one could argue and say at any point he could just do that too. But DC, like I say, took advantage of a situation. The crowd reacted to it. I was in the arena. And all of you that are sitting at home saying, I'm done with the sport, this is dumb, man, you're a small minority. You know what I mean? Because the arena erupted and went nuts and loved it and gobbled it up. Why? Because most of that audience is kick his ass Seabass, put him in a body bag. The casual fan. That does pay and will pay for these pay-per-views, but us hardcores that want, structure and a championship drive and all that, we are going to nitpick, and I have no problem with it. Now, one thing I've told people is, let's just say the UFC does go down this route, because a couple things here. There's a lot of stuff to cover, but Lesnar is in the USADA protocol. He has to finish a 6-month suspension for that penalty he received, before the
Mark Hunt.
The test was before the Hunt fight. So it was retroactive to that. So he has to finish it out because he pulled himself out of that pool, and he has to finish it out. So the UFC saying he just entered it. And I know a lot of journalists are out there saying, well, we don't know what the exact date is, and are people hiding it? I mean, look, he's not going to fight till about January. And if he fights back in December, then maybe he got in 2 weeks ago. I don't know, and who gives a fuck? But, it sounds to me like if this thing came up in September, then I think we could all go, wait a minute. He got in the USADA pool, February? Then we could all use the timeline.
Right.
But as long as this thing's going to go down in 5-6 months, forget about that, man. So, again, Lesnar and DC, does it make sense? No. He lost his last 2 fights. He's not a contender. He's just a pay-per-view star. I can't remember when I said it, but I remember saying I'm done with the money fights. Now, I can't remember if I said let 2017 be the end of it or 2018. I think I said 2018 because I had a feeling CM Punk was still out there with a fight, that needed to be had. So maybe this is the year. I don't know. I really don't want to see that, honestly. But I feel like Cormier, by winning, that was it. That was the accomplishment, and I don't think he's there to set a legacy or break Stipe's records. And let's not forget his best friend is Cain Velasquez, who at some point, if he comes back, and it is 2 years since he's fought, by the way, if he comes back, you know, he'll probably, I don't know what kind of an agreement they had. This thing gets so complicated, but that's why I feel like if it's just let's just give DC a bunch of money on the way out. He's been a company man. He's been an all-time great, and this other guy can make, you know, some money for the company. Okay, one last thing. I know Dan's chomping at the bit here. Remember this, hardcore fans. At 25, you have Cejudo, who I believe is #1, versus the champ. At 35, you have Dillashaw versus Cody, who's probably #1 again. So those guys are either #1 or 2, depending on what rankings you look at. At featherweight, they were supposed to have Holloway and Ortega. Nobody's arguing that one, right? That's a clear 1 versus 2, or champ versus 1. Again, depending on what rankings you look at.
Yep.
And I think they're going to have it. At 55, that's a fucking mess because of what happened with Conor McGregor. But right now we have a champion, and that champion was going to defend against who was the... Oh, wait. Before he became the champion, it was going to be Ferguson versus Khabib. So it was going to be the interim versus the undefeated guy because the other guy did not want to fight. Then Khabib had to fight because Tony got hurt, so now he's the champ. And when he comes back, I think it's going to be Conor McGregor, or it's going to be a pretty high-profile contender. Now, he had to fight Quinta. Nobody play that card on me. That's silly because they had to have something for that night. So don't play that card on me. And he hadn't become the champion at that time. But again, there's order now, finally, in that weight class. At 70, we have the champ versus the interim. At 85, we just had the champ versus the guy who was fighting to be the interim but didn't make weight but was clear #1. And Gastelum's now kind of the clear #1. A case could be made for Weidman because he beat Gastelum a year ago. But he's still a very high-ranked guy who just took out a tough Jacare, you know what I mean? So all the way up, we do have some order. And if you're going to look and hope that all the weight classes from 25 to heavyweight and women's are just always going to make sense, like the NFL or the World Cup, where there's a tournament structure or a playoff structure, or whatever you want to call it, man, you're living in a fantasy world. Every once in a while, there's just going to be a division where shit pops up. And remember, the UFC's in the business to make money, man, and they're going to do it. Now, one last sorry, Dan. One last thing. Lewis had a shot to put a stamp on Ngannou, or Ngannou could have done it to Lewis. I'm back. It should be me. You know, they were in a prime position to do it, and they didn't. Neither one of them performed. Someone had to be named the winner, and it was Lewis. In the other fights, Volkov got flown in, and I asked DC about that. Hey, the UFC thinks something about this guy. He was flown in. He made weight. He was shutting that down. Nope, doesn't make money sense. And the other guys would be. I'm blanking out here. Who's the other
heavyweight? I mean, now you got
one more.
Junior Dos Santos is back.
No, not
right?
Dos Santos, because he's like 3-3.
Blades?
Huh? Yeah, Blades. Sorry. Good job.
But that's not gonna happen.
Blades is the other one, but Blades only recently started kind of putting some smoke out there. You know what I mean? Prior to that, it's what the UFC wants. He is not selling pay-per-views at this time. Hopefully it changes. And us as media, we've been trying to extract that personality out of him. He doesn't want to do it. He says, hey, man, I'm all about, look at his timeline on Twitter. He wants to be respectful, traditional. He's a martial artist. Okay, but you just saw what happened. Because most people don't care too much about that. So I was all over the place. I'm sorry, but I felt like there was so many little intangibles here to cover. And I'm sure we'll circle back. Dan, go ahead and say what you got, and then we'll take some calls.
Yeah, I know we got to go on to the rest of the card, but I just wanted to kind of tie something I said earlier, and even in the past, and as well as kind of what we're saying, because like you said, you got the DC shirt on. We've had DC in the studio. We picked DC. For anybody that kind of say we're coming off of homers, I just want to clarify that I agree that it doesn't make sense, kind of like what you were saying, George. I want to co-sign on what you were saying. But also, as far as the all-time great, not to get into that or whatever, before our Canadian contingent hates me or thinks I hate GSP. Actually, I have GSP as my all-time great for what it's worth. When you guys said that, the reason why I said DC's in the conversation but not there for me, I have it as GSP for what that's worth. And Wow, sorry. Now I'm done. Now I'm forgetting on my points. But essentially, I've said in the past, and you were saying I'm done with super fights, and you were trying to pin on when you said it, and at the same time I was trying to pin on because I've said similar things too, George. And so just so I don't sound like too much like a hypocrite, it's more just the honesty. He admitted, like Go said, what he was going to do. I think if anybody's kind of deserved it from a resume standpoint, inside the cage to who they are outside the cage, I think he's right up there pound for pound with anybody, right? Stand alone. So I just don't want it to come off that we're just being like some overly biased homers. I think that we all can state the facts here and call a spade a spade, but also tell you where we side on the fence.
Yeah. I think it was 2018, or maybe we said the first half of 2000. Because another fight I know that's been dangling out there, and it's going to happen at some point, is Conor Nate. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't have made sense for the title. And if they would have fought, unless they did it for 70, which would be ridiculous, Nate would have had to have been announced as the #1 contender or just the contender to fight for the title. So I knew that ridiculous play was going to come up. CM Punk was going to come up. I guess I had a feeling that there was a 10% chance. I thought Lesnar was done, but now he's back. But so I think it was 2018. But whatever. If it wasn't, it wasn't. Again, DC gave me this shirt, I think, when he was still with Strikeforce, and he had been defending ex-MMA out in Australia. He had that title. He had King of the Cage. He won that title. I think even before he even got to the UFC. When people give me gifts, I like to wear them, especially when it applies.
Yeah, no.
So I have a lot of stuff, Am I a homer? Yeah, I think I've admitted to being that as well. But I'll call it like I see it. Like I really feel like another journalist. I wish I would have known his name. I wanted to give him credit because he asked DC, "Listen, you're harping on Jones for all of his troubles with PEDs, yet you're taking a fight here with Brock Lesnar, who's also had his problems with PEDs." And so DC went out of his way to say, I'm going to make sure he gets tested, even if there's more testing on top of USADA.
Yeah.
But then he also clarified and said, but you know what? I'm calling the shots. So I kind of just want it because it's going to make me a lot of money. And I appreciated that brutal honesty, too.
Yep.
There was no tap dancing around, at least that part of it.
Yep.
Now, we can still sit there and go, well, I disagree with DC. Or okay, fist bump for telling the truth. However you want to feel about it. That's fine. But anyway. All right, let's take some calls. Or no, we got to get the first break done. And then we'll come back and do a run of calls. 866-522-2846. We got some beasts on hold. I know they can't wait to vent about UFC 226 and the Tough 27 finale. Just to finish out the main card here as we go out to break. Well, let me just do the co-main event, and then we'll do all that when we come back. Attendance, bonuses, gate figures. But in that co-main event, Derrick Lewis did defeat Francis Ngannou. 229 and 229-28 and a 30-27. It was a very boring fight. Lewis has already taken it on the chin, and we'll talk about all that when we come back with him and DC, both guests of ours in the second hour. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Do what they say. Your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
SiriusXM presents ESPN's coverage of the championships at Wimbledon. Hear point-by-point action throughout the fortnight, starting every morning at 4 Eastern on Sirius 145 XM 207, and streaming on your phone or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, we got to jump on some calls here. 866-522-2846 is the number to call in to discuss anything that happened this past weekend. I'd really like to stick to these two events, but Marcus from Atlanta, in-studio guest, long-time listener and supporter of the show, did bring up something. Also announced was the rest of the fight cards for the rest of the year for the UFC. So in early December, they go to Toronto for, I believe that's UFC 230, and September 8th, they go to Dallas, Texas for what will be UFC 228. So that and a few other cities have kind of been filled in. The Dallas one's literally like 60 days away. So big announcement there.
You know what Danton was looking at? You know what Danton was looking at that in that announcement, right?
That they're going back to Big D?
No.
Oh, what?
But 9 consecutive weeks of fight cards with 9-week stretch with 10 fight cards fitted into it.
Okay,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, they have these.
UFC.
They do have a crazy stretch, that's for sure. Let's see
If
here.
you would have guessed that, I would have lost my mind. I
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. I didn't know.
I thought he was going to go the Big D route, too. That's why I was waiting.
17,464 were in attendance. The total gate was 5,877,238 with 21 cents. The bonuses went out in the form of all performance of the nights, no fight of the night. And that sucks because I thought Uriah Hall and Costa deserved it. And I was homering a little bit for Uriah Hall just because he battled, man. He lost, but he battled. And
he did everything that they asked of fighters.
It went back and forth, you know what I mean? So he kept battling back, taking the lead, and then Costa would come back. And so for those guys that just dig deep, and if you witnessed it in person, it looked like they handed each guy like a steel pipe or a bat, and they just would slug it out like that because all you could hear was like, you know, the flesh getting hit, you know, body kicks, leg kicks. Punches to the head. I mean, and kudos to Costa for as jacked as he is. I kept thinking, he's gonna gas. He's gonna gas. He didn't gas.
No, yeah.
So he's, you know, a lot of those guys are huffing and puffing when the fight's over, but neither him nor Hall. But anyway, I can go down that rabbit hole and we'll never come out of it. We got to get to the calls. Cormier, Pettis, Roundtree Jr., and Costa got the $50,000 each. Derrick Lewis defeated Francis Ngannou. Mike Perry defeated Paul Felder. Anthony Pettis defeated Michael Chiesa. Khalil Roundtree defeated Gokhan Saki on the main card. I'll talk about the prelims and the Fight Pass prelims in just a sec. Let's get to these calls. Kevin in Chicago. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Hey, what I want to know is if you noticed the eye pokes and what you thought about them.
In the main event?
Yeah, the main event.
Well, I saw one that there's an angle to one of them that looks terrible. Mm-hmm. You know, it's from when you're looking at DC's right side. It does kind of almost look like a here's a flick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at the fight from all the different angles that they had, you can tell that wasn't a flick and he wasn't intending to do that. And luckily, Stipe's also come out and said that didn't impact the outcome of the fight. But there was one angle where one could argue and say, "What is that?" You know, like that didn't look like what a sportsman would do, you know what I mean? But he was also getting warned by Mark Goddard, that even though 2017 rules weren't in effect, where you really have to point the hands up, the fingers up, or close your fist, he was getting warnings, you know, about that because just in the way he parries and the way these guys are always trying to go for wrist control, it just happens. But to answer your question, Kevin, I saw him, I spotted him. I can understand how someone would interpret one of them, but I don't think DC's ever given us that inclination that that's the type of sportsman he is or what he needs to do to win a fight.
I want to add on to that. I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin. It's something I actually went back to watch afterwards. afterwards, with sober eyes and whatnot, and also seeing tweets of that nature. And I was initially seeing tweets of it happening in the clinch exchange. That was really beautiful and on the highlight. I didn't see it there. Like George said, even Stipe, who I think has the biggest, one of the biggest, weigh-ins on this topic, said, it's not a part of it. But yes, the replay that George was talking about, as much as we love replays, here's the problem, guys. It's played in slow-mo, and it's played out of context. So the slow-mo is going to make us see things easier, but it's going to make anything, whether it's impact, foul, or legal, much, much worse, right? Yeah. And it's going to take it out of context, like George said. And George was right. It was off of his right side. But what was happening was, he was getting warned because he was doing something that DC actually picked up after his first fight with John Jones. DC was more like Kane, where it was more of a traditional high guard, boxing, pressuring in. But if you notice, after that first John Jones fight, he learned that hand trapping. Now, he didn't have the long arms like John Jones does, where he can just whip elbows over the top. But when you extend your hands, it's great because it makes your opponent naturally want to extend hands with them. Now, Stipe, or most people, have longer reach than Cormier, but it's great because as soon as someone grabs you, the best thing someone can do is grab you in a fight. You know why? Because now you know where their hand is. Thank God you're grabbing me, because now you're not going to punch me with this hand. And that's kind of the mindset when you're kind of reaching out and you're trying to bait a guy to hand trap with you. You want them to, now I know where your hands are. And as soon as they reach out, what did DC do? Hook and punch. But like George said, there's a very small window from going open to punching that there's a lot of room for error, right? Just like when you're throwing the inside leg kick and a guy, all he has to do is step in a little bit. What happens? A groin shot. We see it every card, right? It's another one of those things. And so DC went to throw his right, and what he was doing was DC was actually going southpaw a lot in that fight, but when he did, he would throw a right hand to keep himself on balance and come with that left kick. And the replay doesn't show, as long as it seems like it's playing, the replay doesn't show the left kick that's actually following up. And DC was essentially just kind of using it to balance. That right hand out there you call it like a counterbalance. It often sets up a kick. It stops the previous momentum and then sets up a kick. And that's what he was doing. And again, he's already such a low room for error. He's reaching out to balance. That's why the hand came out. But in the replay, it looks like the Kung Fu Theater, like Joe Rogan said, because it's only catching him, like George said, flicking him in the eye. So I just wanted to kind of point that and break that down.
It reminded me of the Stephen Struve fight when he got caught. Remember, we got caught in the eye, then he got knocked out right after he caught with the eye poke?
Yeah. I just remember the KO, but I don't remember the sequence of that.
There was a lot that went into that. A lot of people will cite Stipe slipping on the mat, but if you look, he actually it wasn't slipping on like a graphic like the Tony Ferguson Vernata. And I've heard the thing that Kevin mentioned before too, as far as an eye poke. But it was almost like 45 seconds when you go back and watch of Stipe taking legitimate shots from before the eye poke to after. That you don't hear it too much in the argument, but that's what Kevin was referencing.
Thanks, Kevin, for the call. Marco from Waco, you're up. What's up?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, dudes?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm going to run for a minute, so let me do this thing and then I'll get out.
Orale.
When it comes to people hating on the Brock Lesnar fight, they're not really freaking fans of DC. Let the guy make some money, and the result with the chance that Brock might win the fight. Then what? Now, the argument with DC being the pound for pound, not even there. He's right now the pound for pound fighter in the world. But the greatest in all time, I have a problem with it. Because he's still in the shadow of John Jones when it's come to light heavyweight. The first fight, when he was the challenger, he lost, fair and square. Then John Jones ran a lady over, and he vacated his freaking belt. The second fight, when John Jones was the challenger, he knocked out DC, took the belt from him, and then he tested positive and took the belt away from him again. Whether you want to say no contest, finish, whatever, he has never beat John Jones at light heavyweight. At heavyweight, there is no argument. He beat one of the best heavyweights ever. So, he is still in the conversation of greatest of all time, but because he has to, at one point in his career, before he retires, beat John Jones fair and square, and then there will be no shadow of John Jones anymore.
Well, hold on a second. All right, let's just say that squeezes DC out of the conversation. Are you saying Jones is greater than GSP? Because GSP's won two different weight classes, at least. There's a few of those guys that have won two different weight class titles, including Conor and GSP and the others. Jones hasn't done that. And here's another thing. Here's another thing that people need to realize about John Jones and off the field activities and the stuff that's also prevented him from being, on the field. First is the doubts. Did he always cheat? Was that the difference? But by also having all these troubles, Marco, when you're the champ and you're not defending, well, how the fuck are you going to lose? You know what I mean? If you're just out there chilling and not doing anything while all these other guys are walking in and facing Rumble Johnson and those a few guys out there that John Jones could have continued to face. Because remember, after he went through that battery of legends, former champions, the fights would have just got tougher. He did fight DC, I'll give him that. But there was still, like, Davis. I would have liked to at least seen that. And Rumble Johnson. And again, he wasn't able to show up to the dance. You know what I mean? How do we know one of those guys wouldn't have taken him out? Or how do we know that if he would have moved up to heavyweight, that maybe one of those guys wouldn't have been able to do that? That's what's impressive about some of the guys that have been able to do it in different weight classes and sustain it. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I'm not too caught up on the PDs. I think the guys should be able to use it. That's always, especially for recovery. But it is a rule. And one of the wins has been taken away. DC didn't say that. I said that. So I don't know, man. Again, this is an argument we can have for a while, but you can't just see it through one lens either.
Real quick, remember, the book on John Jones is not closed yet, and the guys are like 30, 31 years old. But DC, as a heavyweight, probably one of the greatest ever. And Tyson being 2020, I wonder what would have happened when he came up from Stratford. If he would stay a heavyweight, win the title, we probably would be talking about the greatest heavyweight of all time right now with DC, with title defenses and all this stuff. Peace out, guys.
Okay, see, but maybe. At some point he would have had to fight Kane. Yeah, and who knows if that would have slowed him down. According to DC, Kane's just a beast. He could be friendly with his teammate, and he's just putting him over, or maybe that is the case. But I feel like by beating Stipe, that does erase a little bit of what happened at light heavyweight, which is coming up short against John Jones. Because
now he's doing something that the other guy hasn't done.
Right, exactly. So that has to count for something. And again, if your stance is still, well, that's a nice explanation, George, but I'm still with Jones. Well, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But that's not the deciding factor where everything else just gets, hey, forget about everything else that happened too. It's not just that. All right, next up, Ford from Las Vegas. What's up, Ford?
Well, hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Hello, Jason.
I called to take my medicine today because I have talked a lot of shit about Cormier and Stipe. But now that we got that out of the way, the eye pokes. You guys got the fight analyst breaking down the fucking eye pokes. You guys are homering so hard right now. Come on, guys. Is this for real?
That didn't seem to me like he was an unsportsmanlike eye poke.
Dude, if the guy that got poked isn't saying shit, who are we to say shit?
And if we're going to, what's the one thing that everybody holds over DC that we just had a conversation on? John Jones, educated fan to non-educated fan. John Jones. Well, what did John Jones do a whole bunch before to where the point where DC even had videos produced with the AKA buddies about it? Eye pokes. What is it? But yet we want to hold the John Jones thing when it comes in handy. I'm not saying you're doing that for it. I'm just putting. By the way. Okay. Well, just say putting out for the general. I'm glad that the eye poke thing almost happened because it almost brings out the kind of hypocrisy angle or just where the line really kind of sits as far as how much weight does this John Jones victory have? And obviously it has a lot. We're not saying that it doesn't. We're not denying anything here. But the eye poke thing, it's funny. I don't know. I just think that's funny to see how much it's been brought up since.
Well, the thing too though is George, I'm not. I was bitching when John Jones was doing it too. So I'm if I'm one thing, I'm consistent, sir. When I'm bitching.
My man. All right.
Now you also mentioned
you're kind of the goat when it comes to bitching, aren't you?
Oh my goodness!
I might be both. I don't know about the goat.
Is he goat or is he all time?
He's all time. He's the goat.
Okay, goes. How about all the Bellator parties you've ever gone to? Is he the goat and host there?
Dude, he's the goat there, and I don't want to bring that up because then I don't want to get uninvited from a future Bellator party. So
I see. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I heard you throw a great fight party, Bellator fight party.
Yeah, both of your invites are eternally lost in the mail for the future. Last thing though, George, you brought up a good point earlier. I know we butt heads a lot, but I want to give you credit where it's due. You're absolutely right. These people that are bitching about this Brock Lesnar shit are a complete fucking minority. So everybody that hears that, everybody that's been bitching, you don't fucking matter. You guys have a good day.
Okay, see you, Ford. Well, and then another thing, I saw this on Twitter.
This doesn't make sense.
It's those people also bitching that'll also go, I'm not getting DJ and Cejudo. I'm not getting that. Even though it's a clear number one versus a clear number two, and he's a GOAT, I'm not getting that, man. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. Well, guess what? when they are only selling 85,000 pay-per-views or 100,000 pay-per-views or 125,000 pay-per-views, and all of a sudden you're calling for the demise, well, let's just say that's true, and that is the demise. Wouldn't the UFC go, fuck, if we keep this up, it's going to be a demise. What do? We got to do something crazy because they're a business, right? So that would be the flip side, is them going, let's get 2 people that'll sell for sure and get them in there and make some more money to sustain the ones that are only 85.
Yep.
MMA fans love to bitch. We'll be right back.
King Kong has a lot of shit on them. Like a lot. Especially they're Gorgeous George.
6M subscribers at the Stephen Talk House in the Hamptons. We have your chance to be there. One grand prize. 6M.com/ this is necessary. Let's take another call here. They are on fire. Dean from Georgia, what's up, buddy?
Gentlemen, how's it going? I got 3 quick points for you. So it's easy for it to be consistent with his bitching when he's constantly bitching. So it's pretty easy. Yeah.
He never has bitching rust, is what you're saying? He's.
Yeah, exactly. I know you could go tell me to go fuck my mother. That's his go-to line. Let's see. So the second point. So does this DC win? Does that make Kane the unofficial baddest man on the planet? Because apparently DC always says how Kane gets the better of him a lot of times in training. And then can you discuss this? That no one's bringing it up. Is here you have this Stipe, basically the most decorated heavyweight champion, had 3 defenses, and no one's even mentioning about a potential rematch. All right, I'll take that off there.
Okay, see you, bud. Bye. Yeah, that would be a funny trap question about, well, if Kane's always getting the best of you, is he the GOAT? I know we've kind of entertained that. As far as Stipe, Dean, let me tell you something. He didn't help his cause. Stipe is an awkward individual. He's really, really cool in the sense that when he comes in, he's a joker, and you can tell that he's never in a bad mood. He's probably like a fun guy to have at a fight party. But in terms of just the way he handles the media, he blazes through questions, He doesn't. He not always does he have like a clear thought on his career. It's tough to be a fan of his. For those that want to be a fan, he's a badass man. He handles his business and he's done incredible things. But we were trying in the post-fight press conference, and his go-to was, "I don't care about all that. I just want to get home to see my daughter." Because his daughter is going to be born soon. He just wanted to be with his wife. He must have said that like, of the 10 questions we asked him, 7 of them had to do with, I don't care about that. I don't know. All I'm thinking about is getting out of here and jumping on a flight and going to face my daughter.
If anything, Daniel kind of helped him out because Daniel was the one that threw it out there as maybe that could be a possibility.
That could be one of the possibilities, yeah. So he didn't help his cause out there. I thought he could have done better, but he just, I don't know. He wasn't saying it, and that would have been the time. Look, the plane wasn't going to leave any sooner. I mean, I bet you the pilot could make it up in the air. Hey, if I spend an extra 10 minutes with the media, can you make it up in the air? I bet you he could. But he just has never done well with that. And I wish that would change, because who wouldn't want to be the KO artist, man, in the heavyweight division of the UFC and be able to talk smack like Conor or Chael or Muhammad Ali, Ric Flair? Can you imagine if you had those types of skills to go along with the last 2-3 years that guy had? Anyway, all right, we're going to come back. We'll be talking to the champ, Daniel Cormier, followed by Derrick Lewis. So stay close. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on Sirius XM, Rush 93. we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. If you'd like to call me for interrupting that awful song, it's the same as my. I'm looking out for you guys. All right, let's do the daily. Danny just goes. Was that Danny's choice?
I guess, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wasn't Automatic 253, right?
Nah.
I would never.
You thought that was Danny's voice?
Well, I don't know, because the way he did it's like he was slightly offended. Here we go with the daily debate. We're going to do that because we have postponed DC. Well, he postponed us, to keep it real, by about 10 minutes. So he will be on, and now we got to readjust our schedule. So it's time for the daily debate. Let's do that, and then we'll jump on some calls. Pooh Man is on hold, and somebody else is jumping on as well. Very, very crafty to listen and adjust and get on the hotline to chat with us. Here we go. Today's question is, given his retirement timeline and position as a double champ, which of these two fight options are most likely to be Daniel Cormier's final bouts? Jones at 205, followed by Lesnar at heavyweight. Gustafsson at 205, followed by Lesnar at heavyweight. Jones at heavyweight, followed by Lesnar at heavyweight. Lesnar at heavyweight, followed by Miocic at heavyweight. So those are the four options. Let's get through those first, and if we want to add to it, then we can. Go ahead.
I initially had voted for Jones at heavyweight and then Brock at heavyweight, but I started thinking about it, and I don't know that that's smart, because if Cormier loses to Jones at heavyweight, then why would Brock be an option? And Brock is the big payday. He can lose to Jones at 205 and still have the option of doing the Brock fight, right? So I'm going to go with Jones at light heavyweight and Lesnar at heavyweight.
Goes being strategic here. All right. Dan Tom?
I was going down the same path, except I couldn't help but think, as you know, as a fan, I couldn't help but think, DC probably couldn't help but think that my power is back at heavyweight. Boy, if I get another shot at this guy, I want to take it back into this home realm of heavyweight to see how that goes. So for that reason, I would actually go away from both those options. And instead, not much has been said about Stipe getting a rematch, and he's a tough guy to beat. He's going to be back up there for the title. I think maybe would be more realistic would be, yes, both fights at heavyweight, but the combination of Brock Lesnar, Stipe at heavyweight.
I don't even think DC's going to go back to 205, personally. It just looked like those cuts. He's 39, closing in on 40. And by the way, I mentioned the retirement timeline. He has said, I believe, March 20th of 2019. Somewhere in that neighborhood is, I believe, when he turns 40, and that's it. So that's the retirement timeline they're talking about. But I use the process of elimination. For one, at this very moment, Jones is not an active fighter. So right away, I eliminated the first two.
Okay.
And I was left with Lesnar and Miocic, or Gustafsson and Lesnar. And Lesnar has to clear the protocol of USADA. That'll be probably through December or January, because he has to serve out that suspension. So that eliminated the last one. But you know what? It's kind of the one I thought anyway. Gustafsson at 205 and Lesnar at heavyweight. So that's the one I went with. 44% said Jones at heavyweight, Lesnar at heavyweight. The others are pretty close. Gustafsson and Lesnar, Jones and Lesnar was 21 and 20. And then the last one, Lesnar and Miocic, was 15%. But again, the last one just, I guess, isn't as realistic. Jones could be realistic if, in fact, they clear him or they just do time served and he would be done with his suspension, I believe, July 29th of this year. So, that said, well, thank you very much to the 2,315 that voted. That said, Dan presented something. You were saying that DC mentioned he dropped his name on social media, Shogun?
I just was going through my Twitter timeline just now and saw that name mentioned, yeah.
Well, we'll ask him about that. But initially I said, Dan, Tom, stop doing drugs. That's not realistic. But I forgot, Shogun has a 3-fight win streak. He's fighting in Hamburg. If he wins, that's 4. And he's Shogun. And he's complaining that Gustafsson's not a big enough name, or at least it wasn't when they first fought, although I believe Gustafsson's name has grown since then. That might not be the end of the world, because now he keeps both belts active, Shogun, while Lesnar comes back, and then Lesnar. and then that would be it.
No, that's all it goes.
I hear what DC's
Or does he
saying.
have to fight Jones a third time? Is that what you're getting?
No, I don't think he has to.
Okay.
Especially at what he's doing at heavyweight. I don't think so. But I hear what he's saying about Gustafsson, but I think a lot more people would order that fight because of how great the first one was. And I think Gustafsson's name has grown since then as well. So
yeah.
I hear you. It wasn't good at the time, but I think that would improve.
Okay. Let's take a couple of quick calls here. And we are going to be talking to Daniel Cormier a few minutes, in just a few minutes, followed by Derrick Lewis. Pooh Man, a.k.a. Kevin from Canada. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, fellas?
What up, Pooh?
Chilling. Been a little bit. Couple things. First, Francis Ngannou. What I believe we might have been seeing is something close to like PTSD. I think he trained in the gym, and that's his home territory. But once the big lights in the crowd were in the background, I think he remembered that last ass whooping. And it kind of tightened him up a bit. Where Derrick Lewis should have been like, you know what, this is a lamb in the slaughter. Kind of moved on that. But he's, you know, I like what Derrick Lewis said in the point that he said, you know what, I just need to find a couple more tools to make openings. And I think he needs to find the leg kick game, a lot less heavyweight leg kick to make openings. So that'd be helpful. Second, we had Holloway, you know, had to pull out of that bad boy. And since we're talking about, you know, what could be concussion-like symptoms, I think in the realm of that topic, concussions, I think when we're talking like knockouts and things like this, there should be, you know, a system of classifying a knockout. So when you get, let's say, like a level 10, you're out cold, stiff, you know, there should be some parameters that say, okay, now for 1 year, you can't do this, this, and this. You know, you can't, you know what I mean? Because, you know, we've had a couple of people lately, you know, Frankie Edgar, you know, come right back after getting knocked clean out.
Right.
You know, so we need to, you know, kind of classify this in order to preserve health and just, you know, give the fighters their best chance of success in every time they step in there, you know?
Well, let me say
So
this,
that's
buddy.
something I've been thinking about.
Okay, thank you very much for the call, Pooh Man. All right, so let me say this. I understand what you're saying, but let's just use TJ Grant, Dan Tom, and Chris Holworth as an example. You saw what Francis Ngannou did to Alistair Overeem, yet Alistair Overeem was able to come back and compete in Chicago. Obviously, I'm sure he went through a battery of tests. He got cleared by certain doctors, and there he was fighting Curtis Blades. These two guys got hurt these three guys got hurt in training, and I'm sure whatever blow you took, Dan, I don't know if you've ever actually been specific or explicit with us on whatever blow you took, but whatever you, TJ, and Holdsworth did take, whether it was an elbow or a knee or whatever, I believe all of you were grappling, certainly wasn't as hard as the punch that Ngannou hit Overeem with. So even though Overeem was sitting there stiff as a board and he got hit by arguably the hardest puncher in the game, he was able to come back. And so I don't know that that's the actual way to do it, Kevin, honestly, because the concussions are all different in where you get hit and the symptoms that continue. You want to chime in on this?
Yeah, let me just to clear it up real quick. His heart's in the right place for sure, and I agree. I would like to see more protocol, but it's not as simple as if a guy goes out cold to kind of out. Was it a TKO? Was it a KO? Because mine was, you know, I've been hit where I've been head kicked by a 250-pound man named Lars when I was only a 14-year-old, 5'7", 14-year-old. Okay, I mean, like, I remember waking up next to a wall. Like, I've had that bad of stuff before, and no symptoms that I could be aware of. Granted, I wasn't aware to even be looking for those symptoms back then. This was like late '90s, early 2000s. But the one that George was referencing to, the one that I referenced to on the show, the one that I still have problems from, there was no even blow that I could point to. In fact, I was winning most of the rounds in sparring and didn't notice it till right after the practice. And that's the scary thing is, and just like George said, when he referenced TJ Grant and Chris Holdsworth, a lot of those were grappling. A lot of these guys, when they get concussions, a lot of it is grappling. And that's just because you're right. You're headbutting someone's knee, or you're bumping heads into each other. Wrestlers get it all the time, and so that's the tricky part of trying to have an answer. There is no easy answer. because some of the worst injuries can come from not so stereotypical, quote unquote impacts. It's a new science.
Okay. Let's do Ben from New York, and then we're going to take a quick break. What's up, Ben? How you doing?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
So you'll probably think I'm dumb, but for me, the most exciting part of the entire card was when they announced that Nick Newell was going to be on the Contender Series. I don't know. I always liked him as a fighter, and I'm super stoked to see him coming back.
You didn't know that he was? You didn't know that he had that they announced that months ago?
No, I did not know that. That was complete news to me.
We had somebody come to the studio and say that today.
Marcus didn't know that either?
Oh, okay.
Not Marcus.
Oh, who?
Matt came in and
he didn't know Nick Newell was...
That he was excited for that Contender Series because of Nick Newell.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I always felt he should have at least been in the UFC a lot earlier than now, and I hope he wins.
Also, if you're not aware, there's a World Cup happening right now, too.
I am aware of that.
Oh,
I just don't care about soccer. I'd play it, but I don't like watching it. That's my point of view on that.
All right.
I'd rather play it. I just can't watch it. That's all.
That'd be like a fan of porn, but you don't like to have sex. That's weird. Is what we're getting at.
No. Anyways, you guys have a good one. I'll see you later. All right?
You too, Ben. See ya.
Bye.
Let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius 67 Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be back with the champ, Daniel Cormier.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good-looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
Barstool Sports is heating up your radio this summer, bringing you their unique flavor to the sports and pop culture stories that are trending this week, like the World Cup, NBA free agency, and much more. Enjoy content by the common man for the common man on Barstool Radio Power 85, and listen on your phone or at home on SiriusXM, connected devices, and speakers. All right, we'll be joined by the Champ in just a sec, but I did a little research, guys. Shogun, when he's headlining the UFC, has sold the following pay-per-views: 290,000, 445,000, 500,000, and 520,000. Gustafsson has sold 250,000 and 310,000. Therefore, Shogun has sold better than Alex Gustafsson. Now, in one of those, it was DC Gustafsson, so he was the other half of the equation. Shogun's biggest fights, by the way, were against Lyoto back-to-back. So there is something to be said for one guy being bigger business. Now, since that first fight, both Gustafsson and DC obviously are bigger figures. All right, we're now joined on the hotline by the champ, Daniel Cormier. What's up, DC? How you doing?
What's up, boys? How you guys doing?
Good, my man. I don't know if you caught that. I was throwing out some figures on Shogun pay-per-views and Gustafsson pay-per-views because our guy here, Dan, said he spotted you on Twitter saying Shogun might now be an option for you.
Yeah, because, you know, it's somewhat, I think he might be on a longer win streak than Gustafsson if he wins his next fight. So why doesn't he deserve it? He's a former champion, you know. He would be in the running, too.
You're right.
Gustafsson needs to do something very spectacular to get that title shot.
So it would be 4 in a row for Shogun, for sure. And I was saying that he's actually sold he's actually sold 500,000 pay-per-views on one fight and 520,000 on another fight, and then 445 on another. So he's definitely outsold Gustafsson in the past.
Yeah, he has. And you know, this guy's a legend. This guy's a living legend, a champion, one of the greatest fighters of all time, a guy I respect. And that is one guy at 205 that I would fight.
As you're now closing your career in March of 2019, is it a strong goal of yours to defend once at each weight class, or is it more about wherever the big money is, even if it's 2 heavyweight fights or 2 light heavyweight fights? Does it matter?
No, I want to fight them both. I'm going to fight. Well, Lesnar has to go through the USADA testing pool before there's even a conversation about when him and I can fight.
Right.
So that's going to be a little bit. But I would definitely maybe fight one at 205 and in late this year, and then right around March, February, defend the heavyweight championship. The 205-pound belt, like, there is a responsibility to being the champion, and my responsibility is to go defend that title. So defend it in January, and then defend it again by the end of the year. No one can complain about the schedule. And then come the heavyweight champ in July and defend it beginning of next year. Nobody can complain about the schedule. So, yes, I will defend both titles.
So all eyes will be on the fight card in Hamburg. DC will be sitting on his throne. We'll be looking for a thumbs up or a thumbs down on Shogun. And then the following month, it's Alex Gustafsson. It'll be his chance to outdo Shogun.
Yeah. Now we got to ask questions like, which throne? He's got 2 of them.
He's got 2 thrones, yeah. DC, man, it's been quite a ride, dude.
Hey, I was actually just about to say that. Like, can you guys believe this? Like, you guys are one of the first people to have me on. I went in studio with you guys, and it's just been this crazy chain of events for my career, and then for it to be where it is today, it's just insane, man.
It is insane, but we're very happy for you. You handled your business out there against the best heavyweight the UFC's ever had, and arguably the best heavyweight in history. I know that meant a lot to you, and it didn't set into me until you were actually talking about it in the post-fight press conference. You know, that seemed to vindicate. I mean, a lot of people have always thought much of everything else you've done in the past. Ex-MMA, King of the Cage, Strikeforce Grand Prix, UFC light heavyweight belt. But this one looked like it was a little extra special for you.
It was very special because, I mean, you're fighting the baddest man on the planet. And that's a title that Stipe Miocic really did earn and deserve. This guy is,
he's just a special fighter, a special person, and he fought with honor, fought with courage, represented the division and the UFC in the right way. He's a special guy, man. So to even share the octagon with him was a big deal for me, and to win the fight, obviously, was even bigger.
You look pretty quick, man. I watched that fight many times. I still can't believe how quick you looked. And you were still, at 246, which I know you took a lot of heat for. I was expecting more between 235 and 240, honestly. I still couldn't believe how much quickness you've added to your striking.
That's why we stayed up around 245, because I was starting to hit guys and hurt them, but also the weight wasn't affecting my speed like we thought initially. Man, you guys should have saw me at the beginning of the training camp. It was like I was standing in molasses. I was barely moving. I was slow. And they were like, okay, get the nutritionists out. We got to get back to around 230 if we're going to be able to do this. And then 3 weeks into camp, 4 weeks into camp, started feeling better. Bob Cook's like, maybe you don't have to lose this weight. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, now you're in shape, so you're moving better. And you're faster. And when you're hitting guys, it's starting to have an effect on them. He goes, let's stay heavy. And so we stayed heavy, but it was because of Bob. Bob felt like my speed was still pretty good, even though I weighed a little bit more.
Daniel, you looked really good at the post-fight press conference, except for you had your hand wrapped. Can you give us an update on your hand?
Yeah, I went to the doctor this morning. My hand is broken, but it's not going to require surgery, right? This is the first time that I've had a break in a really long time. But if you remember earlier in my career, I broke my hand all the time, but that was me fighting at heavyweight. So maybe I'm trying to punch harder in the heavier weight division, because at 205 I never had no hand breaks. But now I broke my hand in the fight against Stipe.
So wait a minute. You had said something at the press conference about the index finger, and I saw 2 fingers wrapped up. You look like a high school kid that took a cheerleader behind the bleachers. Now you're saying it's a hand injury?
Yeah, it's a knuckle. I broke the knuckle. No, the finger next to the pointer finger, it serves as like a split. It serves as like a splint. That's what the doctor told me. That's why they take them together.
Okay. And how long will that setback be? Is there a month that you could possibly fight?
Oh, yeah, they said 8 to 10 weeks, and I should be able to start to punch again. So I just need to take a little bit of time to keep it immobile and try to let the bone heal.
Well, either way, these other 2 guys still have to fight anyway, and you need some time off, and another 2-3 months after that. So maybe that puts us in November or something.
It might affect his GOAT status on Xbox, though. That might hurt him a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Is that is that a key finger for Xbox?
Oh my goodness, you guys! I hadn't even thought about it. When you said that, you know what I did? I put my hands up like I was holding the controller to see if I could press the button, and the thumb's still free. The thumb's free. So you guys might still be in trouble.
Uh-oh. Hey, Daniel, now you've been very clear about only a handful of competitors that you would want for those last 2 fights. Should those fights be signed, whatever guys that you want to fight, should an injury happen along the way, would you be open to somebody filling in that spot, or do you stick to those names only?
I don't know. When you sign to fight, you hope that you fight the guy that you agree to fight. So I would just hope that whoever I do sign to fight makes it to the octagon. I mean, you can't control injury, obviously, but all you can do is just be hopeful. And I think I don't want to put any bad juju out in the air. Let's just hope whoever we sign to fight makes it to the octagon.
You're right, Daniel. We don't want to do that, but one thing the UFC did do, and I applaud them for it, is they had Volkov as a backup. He actually went through the whole weigh-in and everything. So I would think, especially since you're becoming one of the chess players in the UFC, that you might have a say in who that might be or how you want to play that. I don't know if that was just special to this fight card, or if the UFC is going to start to do that a little bit more often. But I would think that maybe you would want a hand in figuring out who else might be on the card or who might be brought in as a sub, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be cool to have a say in that, But one thing about me is, man, honestly, when people's gotten hurt, I just fight the next guy. I mean, you saw it in the Anderson fight. And, I was supposed to fight Asia one time. They told me it was going to be Dan Henderson. I just fought Dan Henderson. So I've always kind of just fought whoever they put in front of me. But yeah, I guess I would like to have a little bit of a say in who they're trying to get me to fight as I go forward.
All right. Our fight analyst, Dan Tom's got a question for you. Dan, what do you have for DC, the champ?
Hey, DC, just obviously congratulations, but I did want to touch on one thing about the weight you were talking about earlier, as far as, you and Bob Cook and figuring out yourself throughout the camp. Now, I remember when you were originally going from heavyweight to light heavyweight, I think you came in at, I want to say 235, either against Roy or Mir. I can't remember which order you faced him, and then the next one you came in 225. Did you feel any diminishing returns or positives when you were kind of in that middleweight but still heavyweight, but kind of floating around that 230 range?
I wasn't hurting guys though, man. Like, I wasn't hurting guys, but when I was 245 against Bigfoot Silva, I was able to hurt him. And I think that's the type of thing that's important when you think about me fighting as a heavyweight. Was that 245, 247, I was still hurting guys. Right now, at 230, 225, Roy Nelson was like I was throwing chewing gum at him. He was like eating my questions and just keep on moving forward. So maybe it's true that I'm just not punching as hard as a 205 pointer.
Now, would you maybe just recommend that to your fellow fighters out there as far as weight cutting is concerned, or maybe do you think for example maybe fighters that you fought at 205 like maybe if Gustafsson versus do you think they would maybe even perform better at heavyweight? What do you think about that?
I think Rumble Johnson could fight any way he wants because he hits so hard. He hits so hard, his weight would translate to heavyweight, and he'd be fine. So, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to just go up in weight classes. There's a lot of danger in going up and fighting those big guys. Stipe Miocic was a big, powerful guy too. So, you got to be very careful. But I think the 205-pound guys, they get a bad rap. But I think those guys can't compete with the heavyweights for sure.
UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champ Daniel Cormier joining us here on the hotline. Goes back to you.
Daniel, your stint on The Ultimate Fighter, I know you didn't train with Stipe. You obviously didn't fight him on the show. But was there anything during those weeks that helped you in preparation for this fight? Even if it was a conversation, standing next to him, anything at all that you took from that season?
Well, it was just good to it was just good to compete against him and win. It was just good to win. Every fight felt good. It was like I'm beating him at this. But I think one of the biggest things was the hockey thing. Like, he was supposed to win that deal, and I somehow managed to win playing hockey, and I can't even stand up on skates. I was like, just competitively, I'll do anything to try to win. And that was one of my biggest things, because as I was laying on the ice, guys, I looked up at Stipe, and he looked almost like, what in the hell just happened? Like, after I blocked that last goal, I was on the ground celebrating, and I kind of looked over at him, like, and kind of smirked, like, ha, ha. It's almost like, what just happened? Like, this dude came to stand up on skates, and he managed to block 7 shots in a row to beat me. And I took a little bit of something from that, that, wow, even in a situation where I don't know what I'm doing, I can try to find a way to beat him.
Did Saturday night's win feel so good that you could have just retired that night too? Let's say Lesnar hadn't been flown in, or Lesnar had not.
Mm-hmm.
Could that have also been it too?
It was like, it could have been, because, I mean, how much bigger can it be, I'm going to beat Brock Lesnar. Like, I'm going to beat Brock Lesnar. And I'm going to beat Brock Lesnar really, really badly. But is it really going to feel better than beating the greatest heavyweight champion of all time? I don't know. This was honestly the fairy tale ending if I wanted it. But I'm not retiring because I can't compete anymore. If I wanted to keep fighting, I could fight till I'm 42, 43 years old, I believe. But I decided a while ago that at 40 I would stop and spend time with my wife and my children and just kind of change the idea of my life. You know, my life has surrounded me for so long. My kids and my wife, they've all had to adjust and live this life for me. So it's time for me to go back and be a dad and live life for the kids and for Selena.
Have you heard any trending numbers for Saturday night? Pay-per-view sold?
Not yet. That's real quick. You know, I mean, it felt good. You know, it felt like people were excited. I know that people were Googling it. People were looking. You know, there were a lot of Google searches on Saturday, which usually translates to pretty good pay-per-view numbers, over 1 billion Google searches on Saturday night. So it was good. It was really good that there was that much traction. So there are positive signs. I mean, even from the arena, you know, like the arena said that all those third-party sites and said this was the highest trending ticket, like sale request to UFC 205 when Conor fought up for the second title. So people were excited. The city was excited. The arena was on fire. So hopefully that translated over to pay-per-view.
I think it will. And one last thing here. Does the UFC tell you, hey, the check's coming, the wire's coming through, or do you just kind of randomly open up your banking app and then all of a sudden you just get a figure? How does that work?
I'm old school, man. I'm old school. I want a paper check. They always go, DC. It's 2018. You can electrically transfer this. I'm like, no, man. Bring me a paper check. So when the FedEx guy shows up and needs a signature, I know that I got money coming. But it usually takes about 40 days before the pay-per-view starts to come in. And then you just start receiving checks. And, you know, if you're at a big fight, you receive, like, a good check. And then the second check is when, like, all the big cable providers start paying. It's a massive check. And then they just keep trickling in after that. You know, it just kind of keeps coming.
That's awesome.
I still get pay-per-view. I just stopped getting pay-per-view from UFC 200. And that was, like, 2 years ago.
Wow.
The checks aren't big. You know, sometimes it's like $500, $1,000, but I'm getting little checks from UFC 200.
I bet that hand won't hurt when he's signing those checks, huh?
I know. That pain will go away quickly. He'll probably sign with his left. Yeah. All right, Daniel. Thanks
I grab it like a kid holding a spoon with my pinky finger and my thumb, and I just kind of scribble. That's my signature.
Daniel, one last thing.
I'm signing that check.
One last thing. Who? Just give me a name or two. Who sent you a cool message via DM or text? That you know, put a smile on your face, from anyone from the neighborhood to a coach or unexpected previous opponent or anything? Like, was there anything that caught you off guard that kind of like, hey, that was pretty cool?
A lot of guys, man. I got messages from everybody. I mean, I had hundreds of text messages when I walked to the back, and one cool one was from Anthony Johnson. He goes, "You might be the ugliest heavyweight champ of all time." You know, which you did your thing, dog. Like, congratulations, man. I was like, Rumble boy, look at you. Just underhanded compliment, you know, like, but that was a pretty cool one. And then, you know, Chris Brown wrote congratulations to me on Instagram and everything. So it's been some big people to some people that I know. It's just been amazing. You know, before I go, I want to thank my team at the American Kickboxing Academy. We have the greatest fight team in the entire world, man. Now home to 4 guys that have won UFC championships and 1 guy that's held 2 at one time. Congratulations to my man Luis Pena. Fought unbelievably well last weekend in his UFC debut. And if they give him that Trezano fight, he'll beat Trezano and show that he should have been the ultimate fighter. Thank you to Bob Cook, Javier Mendez, Rosendo Sanchez, Rudy Cruz, Chris Camacho, and Leandro Vera, my coaches, and also my manager, Dwayne Hinton. Look, it takes a village to build a champion, and you guys did amazing. Lastly, my wife, Selena, thank you for being patient, young lady, because I know it's tough. We did it, though, man. This was a massive accomplishment for a guy that's been chasing a massive accomplishment since he was 15 years old, and I finally got it done.
You sure did, champ. Thanks for the time, man. Hopefully we see you in Vegas soon, all right?
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, take care. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Huh? Classy, too. All right, let's take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 90. We'll be back with Derrick Lewis. And shout out to Goes for lining up the Cormier interview.
Stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tax. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Sirius XM presents ESPN's coverage of the championships at Wimbledon. Hear point-by-point action throughout the fortnight, starting every morning at 4 Eastern on Sirius 145 XM 207 and streaming on your phone or at home on the Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. All right, our next guest is Derrick Lewis. Derrick's coming off a win over Francis Ngannou at UFC 226 in the co-main event. He now has 20 wins, 5 losses, and of those 20 wins, 17 by KO, 1 by submission. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Derrick? How you doing?
Okay, how you doing?
Good, my man. Thanks for joining us here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I went out of my way to point out the fact that of your 20 wins, 18 have been finishes. And as I told you in the press conference, you've built up equity with the fans in the promotion. I know you took that win hard, almost like if it was a loss. But takes two to tango. Your dance partner wasn't willing to do that. Of the two, obviously, you were awarded the fight because you were willing to initiate more action. But also Dana White, I think, cleared your name, you know, and he wasn't as disappointed as I think you thought he might be. So hopefully in these last 36 hours you've been able to perk up and know that you're still one of the best heavyweights on the planet, my man.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I appreciate him doing that. But, you know, I still feel like most of the blame is on myself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have you seen the fight, or are you even going to bother seeing the fight? Sorry to kind of chuckle there, but I don't mean it hurtful.
I didn't watch the fight. I'm not going to watch it yet.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think it went wrong, Derrick? I mean, like, Okay, so yeah, you're taking a lot of the blame, and you probably could have done more. What would you have done more? Like, I know you're not big on the wrestling aspect of it, so would it just been more hands, or where can you pinpoint and say this is probably what I would have done if I could run it back?
I don't know. It's a weird situation because I don't want to get too close where he could get a chance to get an easy hit on me and stuff like that. But I feel like I did enough to try to get him going as well. But it's just a weird situation, Like nothing was like no kind of output was really into the fight, really.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real boring fight. I was even bored in the fight, So I was pushing. I felt like I pushed forward more than he did. And I got so bored, and I started listening to the chant, and it really did sound like a surround sound in the stadium, because I guess it was going around in a circle. That's what it sounded like.
Well, that was actually the Mexican wave. It wasn't surround sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I was thinking about this, and I'm pretty sure you knew you banked the first round. And well, pretty much I thought he scored all three, but apparently the judges gave a round to Ngannou. But I think there had reached a point in the fight where Ngannou was almost going to be just a victim of the lack of action. You know what I mean? And at that point, it's like, Derrick, I know you've played football, so you know what I'm talking about. There can be 49-42 shootouts, but it's like you were winning a 7-0 game in football. And what's on your side at that point? The clock. A couple first downs, you get out of there, you're still the winner. It's just one win. You don't get additional points for the win. And I thought at some point it just became strategic, and I understood why there might have been even a lack of engagement towards the end. The only thing I think it hurts is maybe you guys are always trying to move up the ladder in terms of contender, and then obviously compete for the bonuses. But I don't know. It's a win, and it's just it's over. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping you'll file this away pretty soon.
Yeah, I guess it's a win, yeah, for sure. But it also really does feel like a loss. It really does feel like that. I'm not no kind of relief or satisfied at all right now. Usually, a couple of days after the fight, I'm real satisfied. But I really don't feel satisfied, and I still feel tense about the whole situation.
I got you. All right. Goes, what do you have for Derrick Lewis?
Derrick, we've heard your side of the story and what went wrong on your end. You mentioned how bad your back was getting during that fight. Is it safe to say that another fight won't be booked until the back issue is resolved?
Yeah, we're working on it right now, as we speak. So usually we could get in there before the year over with. For sure we'll get back in there before the year is over with. And, we're going to try 2 more things and see what the doctors could do and stuff like that. But if not, then I'm going to have to continue fighting with this same injury. I've been dealing with it for years, though. Each fight I have the same problem. Sometimes it's not as bad like it has been the last couple.
You could tell during the fight that he really wanted to counter you, but a lot of people felt as the fight was going on, eventually he would realize he's probably down in the fight. And especially at least maybe at the 10-second mark, we all expected him to let go and do something. He never did that. Did that surprise you that even at the 10-second mark he didn't let go?
Yeah, I believe so too. It's weird because you see all his fights, he's letting go his hands, he's coming forward and this and that. Then when he's fighting somebody like me, that don't know too much of anything, but just the bang, and he didn't really want to do anything. So I don't know, man. It's a weird situation.
I did see this on social media. He posted this 3 hours ago. He says, "I'm not proud of my last performance. I've carried my fear from the last fight to this one. I completely understand the frustration and anger that it may have caused my fans, coaches, teammates, family, and friends. I'm truly sorry for that. I won't let everyone down again. All I can do now is prove myself and make you proud again." Do you believe that fear was a combo of the loss to Stipe, but also the opponent he had in front of him, Derrick Lewis, who's knocked out 17 of his 28 opponents, in victory. Do you think that was also part of the fear?
Yes, I believe it was also part of the fear because whenever he stepped inside of the cage, I looked at him in his eyes and his face. Yeah, it wasn't even the same guy that I seen at weigh-ins. He looked completely different. His soul was already sucked out of his body before he stepped in the cage.
Did you fear him at all? I mean, I know you guys.
I seen that same. No, I didn't. No, forget him. I seen that same look in Gabriel Gonzaga eyes too. Whenever he stepped on inside the octagon with me, and I already knew the same look that Francis had. Same look.
What'd you guys say to each other when you guys came close? At all these, these press conference. When you guys stare down there, and then the weigh-ins and the shove, what was being said back and forth? Anything that you remember?
Like he told me in my ear, and so I was like, "What you say?" He said, "You going to sleep?" I said, "Okay, motherfucker." He said, "Your ass going to sleep," and so I pushed him.
Okay.
I said, "You got me fucked up."
All right. Sorry, Goes. I cut off your line of questioning. Go ahead.
By the way, I was going to say I saw that same look in the eyes of the waiter at IHOP when he brought them pancakes. He had that same look too. But hey, Derrick, now at the end of the main event, they bring in Brock Lesnar, and I had made the point that I felt like had you maybe finished Francis Ngannou and just beat your chest the way you do at the end of a fight, would you have had more to say at the end, maybe at post-fight if they give you an interview or even in the press conference, about possibly you being that next guy for Daniel Cormier?
The thing about whenever I do my post-fight interviews is never planned, so I just really freestyle. I say whatever on top of my head, so I probably wouldn't even have thought about no damn Brock Lesnar.
All right. Dan Tom, what do you have for Derrick Lewis?
Man, well, first I got to come clean. I was on the wrong side of picks for the Black Beast here, but Derrick, I got to ask you something. I've credited your corner, especially your chief cornerman, on this show before. I really like the work that he does with you in between corners, and I want to say something. I don't know if you guys picked it up when I was watching the fight, where after the first round, not even getting to crunch time in the third, after the first round, it looked like Derrick, your chief cornerman, was on you, and I believe he said something along the lines of, "I love you, buddy, but F all that. I need you to go out there right now." Whereas Ngannou, and again, not coming at in Ngannou's corner, it's a new corner. They're working with a new fighter. That probably has a lot to do with it. But even in the third round, going into the third, it felt like a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a babying or to come off as a negative, but more of a nurturing type of a corner. Derrick, so I guess what I'm asking you, Derrick, is did you appreciate the honesty of your corner, and how much of your corner helped you come through in what was a close fight down the stretch?
That's the way my coach is. Even in the gym, he be saying the same stuff. Whenever my back is acting up, he's saying, "Man, forget all that. If it happened in the fight, you still have to push through it." So basically, that's all he was saying, because I was telling him my back is hurting, and he said, "Man, I love you, blah blah blah. You got to push through it."
All right, well, one more question, I guess, regarding your coach. In your post-fight interview, you referenced your coach as far as you guys accepting the fight with Ngannou and game planning. You said something along the lines of takedowns was the first game plan, but you went back to your coach and said, I'm not having any part of that. Can you kind of clarify on that?
Yeah, because, we have been working takedowns and wrestling and all of that, but I feel like I haven't worked on it enough to use it into a fight. Because, I'm still, real hesitant about shooting it on guys,
Derrick, one last thing here. What is your normal walk-around weight? Have you ever shared that publicly, or if not, can you?
Yeah, I'm 290.
290. And so a lot of people will right away say if you carried less, maybe some of these problems would go away. Is that in fact true, or is this an injury you've carried when you were maybe 240 or 250, or is there some truth to that?
Yeah, whenever I first started fighting, I was 240 something. They were actually 235. And that's back in 2010, and I still had the back problems then. It really occurred in 2011.
Oh wow, okay. And
I never I wasn't really in the 60 until I signed with the UFC. And it's like all my previous fights before the UFC, I was never in the 60s.
Yeah. Have you
I'm
already...
making money and getting lazy and stuff like that.
I got you. Have you already been assessed by the people at the UFC PI, or has this all been on everything, you know, down in H-Town with the people that you know, the doctors and therapists that you know?
Oh, just the doctors I know. You know, right after the fight, the doctor told me, "Oh yeah, for sure, yeah." He felt my back and he said, "Oh yeah, you for sure." It was inflamed.
Oh wow.
He touched it and he noticed how bad it was. And so I guess they're gonna give me some time off or whatever, and they're gonna try to send me to Germany to go see some physician out there and see what he could do. They said that Cody had went out there and they had fixed his back.
Gotcha. All right, Derrick. Well, is there anything you want to say before we let you go, or do you feel like you kind of addressed everything regarding UFC 226? Which, again, may I remind you, you were the winner.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I ain't nothing I really want to say. It's all good, man. You know, I appreciate my real fans and stuff like that. But everybody else can kiss my ass.
All right. You know what? I want to ask you one more. Okay, I looked at the scores. You won the first round. 2 judges gave Ngannou the second round. So the third round kind of was the decider. So, Derrick, what I want to ask, just to really, really put you on the spot, you said it almost feels like a loss, but what if you had gone in there, and maybe with 90 seconds left or 60 seconds, all of a sudden, boom, boom, you guys start throwing, and the fickle fans go from booing to all of a sudden cheering and foaming, oh, my God, you know, someone's going to go to sleep, blah, blah, blah. But let's just say it had been you. Are you sure you would have been okay with like that? I mean, now you would have taken the L, maybe a KO, or maybe there's a stoppage, or you lose the decision. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, even though the win is classified as boring, and I keep going back to the 7-0 football game, have you thought it through? And, you know, there's a lot of fighters that say, hey, I'll go out on my shield and make the fans happy, but is that really you? Or?
Yeah, I had a fight something like that before with that that guy with that hard-ass last name. I don't even know how to use that.
Abdurakhimov. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a fight like that, and I wanted to finish him in the 4th round. It was almost the same situation, but it was more action though.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, either way, you still picked up another 130 G's. You know what I mean? So you still get your win bonus. So I think that and getting out of there with a win is important. So anyway, thank you very much for the time you gave us. We really appreciate it. Spend some time with your family, hang out, and get better. You know, Germany, wherever you need to go, get better. We love seeing you fight, man.
I appreciate it. I will. I'll be back.
All right, Derrick. Take care. Have a nice day. That is Derrick Lewis, the Black Beast, one of the best heavyweights out there in the world. Got a win over Francis Ngannou at UFC 226. Well, fun show, huh?
Yeah.
There's still a lot to cover, but there is an exit here where we can get out, start doing our videos. I'll let you guys decide. What are we doing here?
Let's take that fool's call and then get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, we only got like 30 seconds, so that means overtime or no overtime?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's do overtime, but let's just take his phone call and get out of here.
We got 20 seconds.
I'm with that.
I'm down with taking the call and talking a little bit more, but to just take a call? Now we got 10 seconds.
I stand by what I said.
Yeah, I stand by what he said, too.
All right. Sirius XM audience, we'll see you tomorrow. The rest of you, hang tight. We'll be back with a couple minutes of overtime.
Viva Las Vegas with the neon flashing and the one-armed bandits crashing all those hopes down the drain. Viva Las Vegas turning day into nighttime, turning night into daytime. If you see it once, you'll never be the same again.
You guys clear for overtime.
Dan, you're a lucky motherfucker, man. I would have just said tomorrow. But these guys went to bat for you, so here we are. Make it a good one, all right? Don't be saying stupid shit either.
I'm feeling the love in the studio by Goes and Dan. Thank you so much.
I think he's earned it.
DC, I feel like he's finally out of the shadow, man. This whole, what did they call his strap? It was some fake strap this whole time. And now DC took out Stipe, and I'll be first to say, man, I didn't see that coming. I thought DC was too big, he would be too slow, and Stipe's boxing would get it done. And it was kind of looking like that for a couple of minutes, but Jesus, DC got it done. Is he really going to drop down to 205, though? That shit seems crazy.
It does, man.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It looks like he looks like a guy that enjoyed every single one of those 246 pounds he was carrying, and to go back to 205 for Shogun. I mean, this must mean it means a lot to add to the legacy. Yet another title defense, and to cut down to 205 for Shogun or Gustafsson, because Gustafsson he's beaten. Shogun he hasn't, but you know. I don't know. I would just think wait out Lesnar and make that final big paycheck and bounce, or wait till the 29 or wait till whatever happens with Jones, and if that guy can do something that pokes you so that you do want to come back, okay, because Jones is $1 million pay-per-view. Jones 3 is $1 million pay-per-view, but Shogun and Gustafsson isn't. So that's reason enough, I think, to get down to 205. Plus, you get to maybe clear your name by beating a John Jones. So the good thing though, Dan, is he can hang back. One of these fights happens on the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. That's the Hamburg card, and the other one's on the 4th. Gustafsson. So he literally only has to wait 2 weeks, and he has options. Like the timing of it is perfect for DC. And do you guys remember when DC was getting ready for UFC 200? Dana White pulls him into the back of a looked like a storage room behind a kitchen or something over there at the MGM, and he tells him how bummed he was. Like, DC's had his fair share of things that didn't go his way, so the fact that he gets to kind of enjoy and push buttons and move pieces on the chessboard, I think he deserved it. I think he earns it. So good for him. You know, good for him to be on the benefit of the timing of something like this. I mean, what if Lesnar had wanted to come back while Stipe was champ? What if Lesnar 1 year ago had not tested positive, and he just goes, I think I want to fight Stipe, and Stipe got all that money. You know what I mean? Instead, he chose right about now, and Cormier happens to be in the right seat. It's like, just good luck, you know?
Timing is so much of this game, right?
It is.
Timing is so much of it.
Yeah.
Man, as I hear about all these fights that you're talking about, I just think in my head, what year is it? Shogun's about ready to get a title shot. Wanderlei versus Rampage 4 is about to happen. Fucking Chuck versus Tito 3. What fucking year is it, man? That's what I think. And I don't even know, man. I'm getting excited for Boise. George, are you going to Boise?
I'm not.
I'm going to answer that question for him. No. I ain't trying to go no Boise.
No, you know what, though? It's a good card.
I have never in my life ever heard you say,
it's an 8-hour drive.
I would love to go to Boise.
You're right. I haven't said that, but what I have wanted to do is that drive through Utah, and we have an ant there that could cut it in half. It's a good card, and yeah, but I know that at the minute I open my mouth, I'm going to get hammered because I just say this all the time and don't go. So I think I'd rather just, like Go said, go with the no. I'm not going to go in Boise. Be in Boise. Are you going to be there, Dan?
I'm being there. It's only 8-hour drive for me, and we got Blagoy fucking Ivanov. This guy's a nut, man. Number one, these two guys are going to be in the small cage. We're almost guaranteed going to see a knockout in this. I know. I'm pretty sure I said that same shit about that Lewis fight as well, but
nobody,
small cage.
Dude, nobody can feel worse than me. Did you guys see what I tweeted?
What?
Whatever it is you did, Dan, I took the monkey off your back. Right before that fight started, I tweeted out, wow, what a crazy knockout in this fight. Hashtag, don't even need to watch it, know what's going to happen, or something like that. I jinxed that fight. That's my bad.
Okay. But the only problem is that neither you nor Dan, are the dumb mofos coming out of that one. Did you see what Mark Raimondi had to do because of what he said? He had to do a shoe.
Yeah.
And I guess he said that this fight won't go the distance, otherwise he'll do a shoey, because he did a shoey with Sean Al-Shadi. And these guys are savages. Like, this is another level of, I don't know. I want to ask Mark one day and just go, what is wrong with you? Because the shoey's bad enough. Did you see it, Gus?
Yeah, I saw it with you.
You saw the whole thing? You didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't. Because
What else did he
afterwards,
do?
trust me, you didn't see it. Afterwards, he goes, put the rest in there. Because I
Oh,
cut it
yeah,
off.
I didn't see that part.
So I guess they hadn't put the whole beer in there. He put the rest of the beer in there. So there's beer in the shoe. Goes, you're going to vomit. Then he
I'm
tells
getting
Sean,
close.
spit in it. And and Sean spit in it. And then he did the shoey. Did you see that, Dan from Morgan?
I
And Dan
did.
Tom?
I did see it.
What
and
the fuck's wrong with this guy?
I want to give a shout
Like,
out
the
to
shoey's bad enough. It came off his foot. Even if he just bought it and stuck his foot in it, that's still right away gross. Not as gross as if it's been his favorite pair of shoes for the last 2 years. I get that. But it looked like a broken-in shoe. So right away, why did he need to say? I've never seen Tuivasa do that. Right? He doesn't tell anyone to add to it.
Very unnecessary.
I mean, just the spit in the shoes is bad enough. I mean, adding to it, it kind of.
I'd spit. I would do my own spit and fucking do that, even though it's just unnecessary. He
Who
already
would that
had
impress?
street cred for days, huh?
Who would that impress if you just spit in your own beer? Hey guys, watch this.
No, I'm just saying, but it's the visual. Like like when The Rock, when he punches you and he goes boom, boom, and then he spits like he's adding something to it. That's probably what I would have done, like that, and then I went boom, spit in my own shoe, I guess, and drank it. But to tell another man, for crying out loud, to spit in that shoe, woo, he took it to a new level. On the one hand, I want to say respect. On the other hand, I want to say, I want to shake him and go, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's gross.
I just wanted to say, I didn't get the same reaction out of you. I was enjoying the hell out of it just because of Sean Al-Shadi's enthusiasm was just insane. He was cracking me up. Sean's a good guy. Shout. But I do want to say, Dan, is that confirmed small cage there for Idaho?
I can almost guarantee it. I watched RFA there, and it was a small cage.
Okay, I'm gonna get with our
And
own.
it's a small arena. It only fits like 6,300 people.
Would you drink
That makes
at a dance
sense.
too if you're wrong?
No, I'm hoping he's right because if you guys saw, the small cage made a return with the tough finale. Well, you guys saw, at least you were there, and for bettors there, I think it affected some of the matchups. There were a lot of underdogs, which I kind of wish I took my own advice. The advice me and George were talking about vetting for you guys.
Yeah,
we were saying
wouldn't have had
all
that.
underdogs.
I wish we wouldn't have had that conversation.
We say all underdogs. We say stay away from bets, stay away from parlays. If you're going to bet anybody, bet the underdogs. That actually was your best bet this weekend.
Pretty much.
And I'm actually want to do a study on that. I actually want to do the last couple international fight weeks, and I'm actually going to try to calculate some numbers if I can find some free time. It's just a little interesting study there for live dogs on high-level matchup weekends. But now that you're mentioning that for Boise, Dan, I'm going to keep an eye out and keep that in mind when I'm breaking down these matchups as I'm doing right now for Boise. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan, for the call.
No problem. And thanks for the breakdown on the shoey, because I cut out where Ghost did.
Oh, dude. If you want, go back and do it, but do it after lunch, man. It just, I mean, on the one hand, I was laughing. On the other hand, I was like, I didn't need to see that, and he didn't need to add it. I didn't know that was he just took a shoey to a new level. Thanks for the call, Dan. Junior Dos Santos versus Ivanov, Zach Otto versus Sage Northcutt, Bermudez versus Rick Glenn, Nico Price versus Randy Brown, Miles Jury versus the return of Chad Mendez, Kat Zingano versus Marion Renault. They did lose Felder versus Vic. That sucks. Wineland versus Perez, Elkins versus Volkanovski. How's that not on the main card? That's what I want to know. Scoggins versus Nurmagomedov. Holabal versus Barcelos. Liz Carmouche versus Jennifer Maya. Mark De La Rosa versus Elias Garcia. And Jessica Aguilar versus Jody Esquivel. Lastly here, since we stayed over, Alexander Volkov did weigh in at 236. Shout out to the UFC for doing that. And I don't think they brought him in after they found out Holloway wouldn't be able to fight Ortega. I think what they wanted to do was ensure that the Las Vegas fan on International Fight Week had some sort of a backup in case things went wrong on the main event. And I'm sure that cost them to pay a little something to Volkov. But still, I think you got to give them their due.
Yeah.
Because if Cormier or Miocic wouldn't have been able to go, at least there would have been a fight there. And I don't know what they would have done. I don't think they would have held that against Miocic and made it an interim. But still, he was there. So they protected their main event. Also, Izzy Stylebender is on the map. Congratulations. He took out good friend of the show, Brad Tavares, on Friday night at the Tough Finale. Tavares did not give up. He battled, man, all the way to the end. But the style bender definitely just keeps getting better and better, and that was a huge, huge win for him. Congrats to Brad Katona. He is the winner of Tough 27 featherweight division. Cuccinello, who earlier in the week I thought he was going to get waxed by Tyler Diamond on that last episode, and instead he rose to the occasion. Now I see he still has work to do because Katona just dominated him on the ground, and there was not much of an effort to get up or do anything. There, he has to put in work if he wants to go. Once you're on the ground, you got to attack like a Pettis or get up, man. Otherwise, that riding time costs you. Mike Trezano, he wanted to win more in round 3. That was the difference between him and Giannetti, excuse me. Giannetti kind of, what do you want to call it, goofed? He was kind of goofing and styling. And did you see that, guys? All he had to do was win round 3, and he would have won the fight. And I thought of the two, he was the meaner bastard during the season. But Trezano just looked like he wanted that trophy, and he wanted the title of being the Ultimate Fighter more than Giannetti. And Giannetti needs to figure that out, because the UFC's paying attention, man, with this Contender Series and all the Eastern Europeans and Brazilians and Japanese and Canadians and whatever, man. If you really want that spot, it's a coveted spot, fight for it. That would be my best message. I know that guy's got some skills. Shout out to Caceres, Alex Caceres. He needs to work a little bit on the gas tank, but man, he's a difficult puzzle to solve. You know, he's got some pop on his punches. He's a southpaw. He's tough on the ground. He's tricky. His record
almost gave it away, though. You don't think so?
He did. Yeah,
he kind of does that, though, doesn't he?
He does.
It was a great fight, though. It was a great fight.
Modafferi keeps getting better and better. Great rebound fight after that title loss. Honchak, she'll never get those 3 years back from when she was at the top.
Yeah.
And who knows, man, if that might be it for her. She's in her higher 30s. Julian Marquez, shout out to him. Torres Labrum. And by the way, he'll be co-hosting on Wednesday. All right, we'll talk more about this when we come back. I just wanted to give you some notes because it was a quality card the night before UFC 226. We're out of here, folks. Go out there and be a champion.